Hi dancers, it's teacher Lina. So today I actually wanted to talk about something. We just went through a few competitions this year. Naturally, as a teacher, I actually only let the studio do a few. I know there are some studios who do more, and I'm not against them because I was a teacher who did not like competitions. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate if you were a dance teacher or a studio owner. You have this like, I don't want to join, and then some who really do. And I know it's a good motivator for kids, but obviously we want the balance of where do we push and where do we also, like pull back at the same time. So I think that this is like maybe a video for you to understand competition scores. Not the way competitions are, because I do want to make a different video about how competitions are ran, but I'll try to do it as constructively as I can. Again, these opinions are just my own opinions, and some of the teachers I've spoken to who are with the studio who also feel the same way, where we also come from a very professional background and we don't just join competitions. And of course, there are people who are like us who want to pass on the tradition properly, and we feel as though we don't want to pass it on like this. It's just that competitions are a really big part of the dance industry these days, and a lot of people are just competing right and left. We recently just joined YGP. We also did IBGPS. Towards, I don't try to join all, and I try to really pick which ones, and I like the competitions that offer scholarships. I think as a teacher, maybe you can look at those as well. I know it's really difficult to increase the quality of your school, but these days I feel as though people are always online and people are always watching you, and people are also looking for better quality training, looking for teachers who are encouraging. So you want the balance of that, and you also want to know what you're getting yourself into, because at the end of the day, you're taking care of children and also their parents, really the parents. So I think as a teacher, you have to do the research first, and you should know what you're getting yourself into. But I wanted to demystify competition scores. That was the topic of the day. But I wanted to talk about the competition scoring, because I wanted to just give a final note about what you can take away from these things. When I got into competitions, I watched a lot of videos. So the one that's really popular out there is like Catherine Morgan's video. I know she talks about being a judge at YGP and what she looks for. And you can start to see that there are different judges that look for different things. For example, with her, she likes like how you enter and how you exit. That's the same for myself, because being a dancer, we always are very conscious about how well we enter and exit. You never finish your dance till after you exit the wings, and you also look at the little details. So, because at the end of the day, when you're a professional dancer, you need to just be able to dance this in a performance. But if that's not your goal, then just competing and achieving that, and maybe that's just something for yourself. But it doesn't mean that if you got gold or whichever award in the competition, that was also like how good of a dancer you are, because there are so many dancers out there who never did any competitions but made it as company dancers. And there are also dancers who did competitions and made it. At the end of the day, I think it really depends on what your goals are as a student or as a teacher, and like your main goal. Anyway, moving aside these topics, it would be nice to just show you some of my students' scores. So I'm actually gonna put them up here, but we'll like blur the name of the student and we'll also blur the name of the judge. I was talking about how Catherine Morgan, she likes to view the artistry a lot more, and she likes the musicality. So you can tell with the scores. For example, I'll do one for, she did La Bayadere's Gamzati, and she's one of my dancers who is very, very artistic. She shines more artistically wise, and she has a lot more energy on her upper body. Like, she knows how to use her legs very well as well. But there are a few more things that she could work on, like in terms of technique. So I noticed that in her scoring, for example, because in YGP, for instance, they score only through artistry and technique. That's it. So they actually only score through those two things, and then they average everything, and that is your final score. So it's not so complicated. It's not like a skating competition or sporting competition where you actually know how much points is equivalent to which one of your dances, and then you kind of base your score from there. You can't tell how much you're gonna get, based on what you did, because I know even like you watch basketball and like from a certain line it's a different point, little things like that. This is why I feel like ballet shouldn't be a competition, but it becomes a competition because we join all these competitions. So this is where it becomes confusing when it becomes a sport or when it becomes an art. But for example, like she did score really well on one judge, where she did she had an artistry score of 90, and then her technique score was 86, and the average became 88. So I guess like if you really just want to score better as a dancer, you can just be good at one or the other. That's what I would tell my students, because you can't tell which one the judges are gonna look for. So you're gonna have judges who are a little bit meaner, and then they'll score a little bit less on the artistry, and then let's say they'll score more on the technique, or you'll have judging who scores more on the technique and then a little bit less on the less on the technique and then a little bit more on the artistry. So it still really is very subjective. So I would say if you were a dancer getting into competitions, the first tip is really don't get offended about what they score either, because each teacher looks for something different. It's kind of like when you join different classes, you get something different from each teacher, and some teachers will really just look for more artistry and some teachers score evenly. So I've noticed, for example, so one of my students who did Diana Nation, she scored really well. She scored a total of 90.1. I don't know what that means, but most of the scores that she got are even. So if you can tell based on the chart, it does say like she did technique 86, artistry 86. And I feel like sometimes as a judge, you'd just be watching and looking up and down your paper, and then you don't really know what to score anymore, and you just watch and you're like, I think she did 91. She stumbled a little bit, so let's give her something like this. And then they just make it even to the artistry. So I don't know, it depends on the judge. If it was me, I'd probably score one higher than the other. But then I have teachers who are like, I don't really know how to score this, and then maybe I'd be scoring this way. I don't know if there's a criteria. Is there an exam? Because for example, like in skating, I know that in figure skating, you even have to take an exam to be a judge. Like you have to actually go through examinations, different levels that you can judge, different like criteria, because you have to know the body. You also have to know, certain things about the body. Of course, I'm not saying these judges aren't credible, because they hire very credible judges in YGT, for example. But of course, they're all still very subjective. Some are a bit more of dancers, some are a bit more teachers. And I noticed that with teacher judges, they're a little bit more strict on technique. And then with dancer judges, who just are mostly dancers, they're a lot more strict with just the artistry of things and how you danced it. So the comments are also really interesting. There's this one I thought here. It says, try to finish the underdone into arabesque. This is her Diana without the hops and the double plie. Work on the last turn. So this was actually very specific, which I actually appreciated, because he noted as to which part she was supposed to work on. And it says, need to finish variation strong in a more convincing manner. So it's very interesting because of course some will be like just writing more energy, more tandu, more technique, but it's like you don't really know, but maybe if you were a teacher it would be helpful. So I appreciate it also because as a teacher you start to see what other teachers look for, and then you get to refine maybe your coaching techniques based on what they are saying. So I think if you were a teacher, you'd actually enjoy competitions in that sense, but don't look at them in the sense that you need to win them or you need to place in them. Although we place and then we win, I mean, it demonstrates the maybe credibility of your school. There are schools that are very good that never place, and I know that they're very good teachers. It's just that the competition is also tough these days, and there are so many good dancers out there. I've also been to competitions where there are a lot more politics, so those are really the experiences I've taken through my years, and hope can help you also as a teacher decide whether or not you want to join competitions. But I do think that if you want to step out of your comfort zone as a teacher also, I think it's nice to try competitions in a way that you can grow as a teacher. You can get comments also from other teachers or other directors what they're looking for, or that's how I would see it personally as a teacher. So I do think there's always takeaway and growth from these competitions, and you can always take away the stage time. But I don't think you have to do it like thrice or 4, 5, 6, 10 times a year, because I know people who do that. I do think once or twice, maybe 3 times is like the maximum for opportunities. And yeah, I think that's most of the things that you can take away from competitions that I've learned from so far, based on, I guess, like the people I've joined in with. Yeah, but I'm very selective also when it comes to competitions. I don't try to put my students into situations they can't handle. So I'll also have to make sure that my student is ready. So I never try to put a student that doesn't have enough technique or artistry or even maturity-wise the confidence yet to be on stage, or the confidence yet to even take on such pressure with different dancers who are already very good in the first place. At most, what I would do is probably have them join the master class associated with the competition, and or have them watch the competition together with me, so that we can watch and then we can observe, and we can also talk about the competition right after. You can help your students process the competitions through. So anyway, I hope that this helped, and this video helps you give perspective as to how they score competitions in ballet, because I started to see a comparison because I was doing a lot of skating. So I know you guys know that I've been skating these days, but when I started to see how competitions in skating are scored, it takes so long to judge skating competitions because of it. Because you know how much is required, how many spins even is required, but you can't do that in ballet because you have a list of variations and you can't tell them to perform like Esmeralda. Everyone will do Esmeralda and then compare, right? Because in skating, if you're in a certain level, then this is the required number of steps. You can't do that with ballet because ballet already has a step, already has its own steps per dance. It's still the art and it's still the artistry that we're looking for. And maybe my final takeaway for students, if you're watching this and you want to join a competition or maybe looking to join competition, is that your self-worth really isn't determined by this competition. Whichever you plan to join or how good you are is really not determined like with this score at all. Just because of everything I said right now, wherein you don't really know what each teacher looks for. It's kind of like when you go to a studio and then the teacher is a little bit more artistic, like I said earlier, a little bit more technical. Of course, there has to be a balance of both, which is what makes ballet an art, because they still have the artistic side and then the technique side. You have to really improve both at the same time. That's the same for me. I also believe in that. But I also feel as though it doesn't mean that you are not winning or you're not placing in these competitions that you're not good. Because I see plenty of good dancers quit just because they saw the girl doing a lot more turns than them, and then they feel as though they're not good anymore. You are a good dancer regardless of how many turns, jumps, or whatever you do. It's how you perform at the end of the day and your presence on stage for me, and how well you use your body. So I encourage you to just really get to know your body a lot more and try to grow with it. And if it's not for you professionally, I do think you can enjoy it as a hobby. And that's maybe another video. So I hope that you enjoyed this vlog, and I hope that you took away something from it as well. And this is Teacher Lina again of Studio Dance by Lina and Dance by Lina Dancewear, and we have a few announcements for Christmas. Since I know this vlog is happening before Christmas, I hope that you can catch our sale, which is happening in a few days. Yeah, so you guys can check that out on our website or subscribe to our newsletter or to this channel. So I hope that you like this video, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!